This is Let Us Interrupt You, episode 6 here on Tuesday, June 21st. The first day of summer is now officially here, and honestly, it really doesn't feel like summer at all. I'm just going to be honest. The weather to me, it hasn't really been that hot so far this summer. As a matter of fact, it's been kind of lacklustering so far, the warm weather. The warmest weather was yesterday, the day before summer, and right before that was actually Memorial Day itself, when it was like 92, 93 degrees. And I actually did not work that day, but it was really hot that day. And and so far we haven't had a day like that yet. So far, that's been hotter than that. I mean, there's been people, I can't tolerate whether that's even above 75 degrees. So I don't think any day is hot at this point. But anyway, we have not really a loaded show on here. I mean, this is probably some, re-review stuff. I'm going to talk more about the Vince McMahon story, the behind the scenes stepping down as a CEO. I don't think it's not a conspiracy theory that involves Nick Khan and Vince McMahon. I mean, Vince McMahon, had an employee that signed an NDA that she can't even address this whole situation. So I have more about that. Mike's not here with me today. I would have his thoughts on the whole thing. He was talking about the referees. In fact, some of the story actually came from him. I was actually going to talk about Sasha Banks today as well. I was actually going to talk more about WWE news involving her. And, supposedly she's going to be released. She's not officially released yet. I got an official phone call here. Give me 1 second. Hello?
What you doing?
The podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Bye. That was my father just now, who actually gave me the Sasha Banks story, so I should thank him for that. But we're actually going to start off with the news about Kyrie Irving and whether or not he should reunite with the Lakers or reunite with LeBron as he's playing for the Lakers, I should say. Or in this case, reunite going back to Boston with the Celtics. Because I had this thought last night. And Kyrie would be basically getting I think it's from a $29.9 million extension to a $49.8, $50 million extension with a sign and trade deal. Because his time with the Brooklyn Nets is over. I hate to say it, but it is. His time with the Brooklyn Nets is officially over. I think the honeymoon phase has left this thing at this point. It's like it's like breaking up with a girlfriend that you've been dating now for about 2 years. It ain't going anywhere. It ain't changing. It feels stale. You need something new and something fresh. So Kyrie's going to leave Brooklyn. But the question is, does he go back to his former lover with LeBron in this case? And he feels if they would have stuck together, they would have won more championships. I actually agree with that 100%. I think if Kyrie would have stayed in Cleveland in 2017, the Cavaliers would have won the NBA Finals that season. I don't know what it is, but I just had a distinct funny feeling that they would have won a championship that year. But now my thought process is, well, what if he didn't go back with the Lakers, but he went back with the Celtics? Now think about it for a minute. This is a guy who hates Boston, had a hatred for Boston because of the way he was treated, when he was there, when he actually made no progress really in what he was like in Cleveland. And we never really got the full sample size of Kyrie Irving, what he could do what for his time in Cleveland, which he spent about 4 years in Cleveland. We didn't really get the full effect of Kyrie Irving. We got the aftermath of Kyrie Irving, the woke version of Kyrie Irving, but we never really got the best player on the floor, I'm the leader of the team kind of thing. Now, I don't want to bring it back to leader role, obviously. I want to bring this guy back as a guy who could work off of these guys like Tatum and Brown. Is he a candidate to boss if he's back on this team? In this case, I think he was. I think he let his self-esteem out at this point. I think Boston paid him back immensely by sweeping the Brooklyn Nets in that series 4-0 in that first round. He got his taste of it. He realized, man, I made a big mistake going with the Brooklyn Nets, and he did. Okay, I mean, if you can't make it past the second round and go to the NBA Finals with this team, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you had Kevin Durant there, for Christ's sakes. A fully healthy Kevin Durant. And you had James Harden along with you. And you couldn't make it to the NBA Finals. At least Kevin Durant made the NBA Finals with the legs of James Harden and Russell Westbrook. He couldn't even do it by himself with Kyrie Irving, tagging along with Ben Simmons or James Harden. So, and that's a team that in the whole COVID vaccination thing, I got to be honest, I think the NBA should have let him play despite the fact he wasn't vaccinated. There was no risk. There was no harm. He was willing to take the freaking test. I looked at it as like the New York mayor being ridiculous at this point. I think just has this pure hatred for the Brooklyn Nets, if you want my honest opinion, and really just a big giant New York Knicks fan and wanted Kyrie and Kevin Durant to go play for the New York Knicks. That's my opinion. I've heard a story now that this guy is a Knicks fan anyway. He was never really a fan of the Brooklyn Nets. As a matter of fact, he didn't like the idea of the Brooklyn Nets even going to New Jersey. I heard tons of stories about this. I would say through high school, really. The guy was never really, because I've heard the stories of this guy. This guy's a whack job. He believes in every conspiracy theory there is. But anyway, that's not really the tall tale here. So the tall task here is this: is that Kyrie, I think, would be better off with the Boston Celtics. You're gonna go in there with an aging LeBron James, with Rasheed Wallace, who thinks differently than other assistant head coaches. Basically, will call you out if you make a mistake, which he's done before. He can call. He's done it in Portland. He's done it in Detroit. I mean, in my honest opinion here, if he were to go with the Lakers, it would never work. You're still playing. You're playing with LeBron James that is not dedicated to playing the full season in the NBA. He lost really his motivation. I think, honestly, I think he's just trying to wait it out until his son takes the torch from him, and that's how he'll retire. He doesn't care how he plays. I don't think he really cares about winning a championship, because this is a guy that went on national television on a press conference and said there weren't really a lot of high expectations. Well, why would you pick up Russell Westbrook then? Why would you have Anthony Davis on your team? If you have those two stars on your team, and regardless of what I say about Russell Westbrook, regardless of what I say, he's still a talented guy. You've got a talented bunch. Anthony Davis now at this point is finally starting to work out at this point. So are there expectations this season, LeBron? But see, he's so involved in other projects, like working as a minority owner of the Boston Red Sox, working as a minority owner of the Liverpool soccer team with John Henry, who owns the team. At this point, I don't know if he's in part of the Pittsburgh Penguin ownership or the Cleveland Guardian ownership at this point. With the high school he's running right now in Akron, Ohio, dealing with that that awful murder that happened right at the school, the promise school that he had going on, with 3 black kids and a girl who witnessed the murder happen and didn't do a damn thing about it, and he hasn't said a damn word about it. There's a lot of problems right now with LeBron James. If I'm Kyrie Irving, I stay away from that distraction altogether. And just for him saying that he wants to buy a team in Las Vegas. I mean, at this point, you're playing with somebody who basically calls you out and tries to bury you every time. I don't know if Kyrie can handle that. I don't think Kyrie's self-esteem could handle that. Where I think he could in Boston, he really was praised a lot when his time in Boston. And people were actually starting to dig him more than they were starting to dig Gordon Hayward. Hell, I've seen people at the Garden at the time where Kyrie Irving was supposed to return for his revenge game, never really did. There were people there that were wearing Celtics Kyrie Irving shirts. It wasn't like when LeBron left Cleveland the first time, where everybody just burned his jerseys and his T-shirts, and then right outside the arena at Quicken Loans Arena. It wasn't like that in Boston, because Kyrie wasn't there long enough to even have that treatment, where everyone's treating it like that. But go back and watch 2010, where LeBron James jerseys were being burnt and the thing was being ripped to shreds off the billboards of LeBron James and the Nike thing. I mean, there's a lot there to digest there if you're a Kyrie Irving fan. To me, I'm not a big Kyrie Irving fan. I thought the idea of him coming there was a little bit much. I didn't think we really needed him, because I thought Isaiah Thomas would pan out just fine. But he had the bad hip problems, so we needed a point guard anyway. I would have gone Kemba Walker before his knee problems, but you know what? It got us somewhere. It got us to figure it out that now it's a battle of who's the face of Boston right now, instead of actually Boston winning a championship between Tatum and Brown. Then you add Smart in the mix. And I proposed something last night where I think in this case right now, because Tatum quit right now at this point on Boston, there's not really a lot of love for Jayson Tatum right about now. If you want to pull off a trade where you trade away Jayson Tatum and you get Kyrie Irving in return, and you get rid of Marcus Smart. Now, I know what people are thinking. Marcus Smart right now is a big risk right now. He's Defensive Player of the Year. You don't want to lose him. But in this case, what if you instead of trading him away, you keep him around, but don't have him as a starter? I'd say, because there's been some Defensive Players of the Years that have basically been on the bench. They've been 60-mans that have done it. Marcus Smart can do both. I know it's a lot. I know it's like a demotion at this point because he's basically a bench player, but you get rid of Derek White and you get rid of Grant Williams in this process with Jayson Tatum as well in that package deal. You still got Robert Williams there. You still got Al Horford. Kyrie, I think if you want my honest opinion, in his times with Cleveland and Boston, he was actually a better defensive player. I mean, there were some times where I watched him play defense. I'm like, wow, he's actually pretty impressive playing defense. And I got to be honest here. I mean, when you're around like guys like James Harden and Durant who don't play a single ounce of defense, you kind of lose that mojo. If you get away from that, and Ben Simmons don't play much defense either. If you get away from that, I think it helps you. Now, I think, honestly, at the end of the day right now, the question is where's Marcus Smart in the lineup if Jayson Tatum gets traded here? You could have him benched. Or in this case here, you could move up the shooting guard and make Kyrie your point guard. Because Marcus Smart can defend anyway. It don't matter who it is. It really doesn't matter who it is. He can defend Durant. He can defend Kyrie. We've seen him do both during that whole playoff series. And it does make a lot of key things interesting at this point. It keeps a lot of options open, I think, for Kyrie at this point. And I think I was hearing rumors last night about Bradley Beal, whether or not he should come to Boston or not from Washington. If you want my honest opinion, I don't want Bradley Beal here. No offense. I don't want a guy who's been injury prone now for the last 2 years and practically has not proven a damn thing to anybody. He hasn't proven anything to me. I think Kyrie's has got more to prove here for a guy who only had a short season and averaged probably more points than the entire Brooklyn Nets squad combined, except for Kevin Durant. That's a guy right there that actually did something, and he actually did a little bit more in the playoffs than people thought he would. So I'm just saying, Kyrie Irving is not a quitter here. That's the difference. Jayson Tatum is. And if you want my honest opinion, I think Jaylen Brown took the number 1 spot and in the captain spot right away from Tatum right after that NBA Finals. You can't tell me otherwise that he didn't. And Game 6 was a pretty good point there. Go back and watch that Game 6. That first half when he scored 11 points, it's like, okay, that's something. Second half, didn't do crap. I didn't even remember him. I didn't even think he had 13 points. I didn't even realize he had a 2-point shot made in that second half. Jaylen Brown had 34 points in that game. Al Horford had 19 points. Those are the only guys that showed up. Just saying. You want to trade somebody away at this point? You want to get rid of one massive contract at this point, which you have 2 of them. If you have Smart and you have Tatum. I'd say get rid of Tatum at this point because, if this is what we're going to get every year in the NBA Finals, if the Celtics ever go back with Jayson Tatum, I don't want it. I don't want the quitter Jayson Tatum. I want a winner Jayson Tatum. I don't think he's a winner. I think he quit on this whole series. And that's not a good start in your 5-year career in Boston, in my opinion. It's not. Now, am I willing to trade him away with Grant Williams and Derek White at this point and Jayson Tatum and giving the Nets something valuable? In this case, I am. I think Durant at this point is not fully motivated to play another year in Brooklyn either. I don't think he is. As many people want to look at it and say right now, like, oh, where do you think he's going to end up going? I think he ends up going back to Golden State. And if not Golden State, then probably playing for the Clippers. I mean, I can make the argument right now. I mean, you get rid of Paul George, you get rid of a dead weight guy like Paul George, and you bring in Kevin Durant, and you have Kawhi Leonard. You got Kawhi Leonard at a shooting guard position. You got Kevin Durant at a small forward, power forward position. It kind of works out in your favor because I think the honeymoon phase is over. Either you could go stay in New York and play for the New York Knicks. I'm just saying that could happen. And Donovan Mitchell could end up going to New York as well because there's a report saying he can either go to the New York Knicks or to the Miami Heat. Either or, it's going to work out in the very end here. And I don't know, I don't know what anybody else thinks of this. I don't know what the heck's going on with my phone. My phone's just been buzzing off right now. We're just getting a report right now that Ndamukong Suh is teasing a Raiders signing. He's saying, quote, Raiders could be fun after saying a Bucks return seems out of the picture. If you got Ndamukong Suh and you got Chandler Jones, you might have a shot. If you're the Raiders, you might have a shot. Your winning odds might even be better. So who knows? Anything could happen now at this point anyway. Anyway, moving on. We're going to talk about Red Sox baseball. We're also going to do some MLB scoring right now. We're going to go over the scores from last night's baseball games, including the Red Sox winning last night 5-2. Franchy Cordero had a pretty great night last night for the Sox, as he went 3 for 4 last night. Duran went 2 for 3. Devers went 1 for 3. Martinez went 1 for 4. Got an RBI single to right center last night. All right, Torkelson hit a sacrifice fly for Detroit, tied the game at 1-1. Devers hit a double to deep right field, which allowed Duran to score. Christian Vasquez hit a sacrifice fly to left, which allowed Trevor Story to score. That was in the fourth inning. Bottom of the fifth, Cordero single to center field. Verdugo scored, and Story scored. Franchy went 3 for 4 last night, had 2 RBIs last night. And he's been pretty good these last few games. Kind of shocking to say the least here last night that he's been pretty good in these last few games. Now, right now, he's batting .233. Not the best batting average in the world. And again, it's not the worst. Right now, your leading hitter right now at this point on this team is JD Martinez, 1 for 4 last night. And he had .335. Bogarts last night is .332 going to last night's game. Verdugo's 247 last night for an average last night. Shoop last night, double a deep right center last night, which allowed Torkelson to score, and that was in the top of the 7th. And that's all they wrote. Red Sox got the win last night, 5-2. This was a pretty good night for the Red Sox last night. You know, they're 37-31. They've won, I believe, what is this now? 6 out of their last 8 games, I believe they've won at this point. They're kind of back in the mix right now, in the conversation right now of competing for the playoffs this season. They are. And it's funny because now they're in 3rd place, and they're not really that far behind Toronto. I mean, you could argue right now if it's Yankees, if it's the Red Sox who are getting home field advantage, which I have a funny feeling now at this point with the way Toronto's been playing lately, with their road record being questionable, and Tampa Bay just not doing that great at all, I think, over these last few weeks. And their last 10 games have been 2-8 the Rays. The Blue Jays have been 4-6. The Red Sox have been 7-3 the last 10 games. The Yankees have been 9-1. I mean, many can argue that the Red Sox right now have a shot right now, and I think that they have a really decent shot of going to 2nd place with this and hosting the wild card game against Toronto. And if they get that 2nd place spot, if they can stay healthy the rest of the way and not have any more injuries right now, we'll see what happens going the rest of the way. They already call up Jeter Downs because they have so many holes right now with injury plagues and everything else like that. But I don't think this is faced this Red Sox team. I really got to be honest right now. And the whole landscape of baseball right now, as far as I'm concerned right now, there's not really a blowaway team right now in the American League that says that can dethrone all 4 of these teams right now I just mentioned right now in the American League East. I don't see Houston doing it from the AL West either. I can see them going to the ALCS possibly. But as far as trying to dethrone anybody with the American League East, whoever's in that running in the ALCS conversation, I don't know. And it depends on who they're playing too. I think it really does because I think the wild card team plays the best team in baseball. So the Houston Nationals aren't going to make that run for it. You can't even make a case around that even catch the Yankees at this point because they're not really in that running. So let's get to the scores from last night. As the Pirates yesterday smashed the Cubs in the mouth 12-1 last night in Pittsburgh. The Braves beat the Giants yesterday 2-1. The Mets shut out the Marlins 6-0. The Yankees had a no-no from Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole, I believe, had 11 strikeouts last night. Went 7 1/3, allowed only 1 hit in this game. That was it. He was perfect throughout the entire game. No walks. Not really an earned run rate to be allowed here, really. The bullpen was able to hold off. They managed to only allow 2 runs in the game. But yeah, the Yankees controlled for most of this game and got their 50th win, the 7th quickest win in club history, really in any kind of history, really for the Yankees, really. So good for them. They won last night 4-2, the Yankees, by the way. The Yankees last night got homers from Rizzo last night. Torres scored an error in the 7th inning, which allowed Trevino to be safe at first. Trevino to be safe at first on an error by a first baseman. And that was Trevino, getting the hit last night. So I messed that one up there. I got the box score reading here. I'm not sure why I messed that one up. Diaz grounded out to a pitcher, and which allowed to Banderas to score Major to third. It was one of those sacrifice bunts that they allowed the other runner to score here. Margaret reached on an infield single, which allowed Mayhaw to score. Aaron Hicks in the top of the ninth hit a triple to deep right center, which allowed Josh Donaldson to score. And Trevino hit a sacrifice fly to left field, which allowed Aaron Hicks to score. And that's how they basically got their run support last night. The Brewers shot the Cardinals last night 2-0. Not much to say about this game last night, other than the fact right now the Brewers last night were actually pretty good. Burns last night only had 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, 108 pitches last night. Really strong message last night to the St. Louis Cardinals as they take back first place in the NL Central. The White Sox, I would say right now, you can arguably say right now they had the best game of the year. I thought I watched it. I watched this game last night. I don't know how I was able to access it last night. I was able to access the game last night. Chicago White Sox defeat the Toronto Blue Jays 8-7. This was a unbelievable game. Andrew Vaughn for the White Sox got 4 hits last night. Was short of a cycle, needing a triple for the cycle when he came to the plate in the 6th inning. But anyway, Vaughn doubled deep, double center field, which allowed them to score. Topper had a 2-run shot, made it 2-1. Josh Harrison had a homer to center field. They had a 2-run shot, made it 3-2. Robert had a homer to left field, which allowed Vaughn to score, which was 5-2. Vaughn had a homer, made it 6-2. McGuire had a ground to first base, which allowed Abreu to score. Pollock went to second. Engel singled to right field, which allowed Pollock to score, made it 8-2. Hernandez had a double to deep left field, which allowed Guerrero Jr. and Bichette to score, making it 8-4. Espinal grounded out the shortstop, which allowed Hernandez to score. And Biggio homered to right field, had a 2-run shot, made it 8-7. But unfortunately, that was all the Blue Jays could have done because the Blue Jays at the end lost 8-7, and they're now, I believe, they're still in second place, but we'll see for how long. Kansas City Royals beat the Los Angeles Angels 6-2. The San Diego Padres beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-1, and that's all the scores that we have last night. Cordero's been doing pretty good for the Red Sox. Let me just put this case out there right now for it. Is this momentum going to keep continuing right now? Is this going to be a deep streak this guy's going to be on right now? I don't know. I'm not too confident about Cordero. I got to be honest. At this point, he's a good trade piece. If you want my honest opinion, I actually prefer if they trade him now and keep Jeter Downs around. I think this kid's ready to go. He's a prospect at this point who hasn't been heard or seen from in 2 years since they got him in a via of a trade from the Dodgers to get rid of Mookie Betts. You can make the argument right now that this kid needs to prove himself at this point. He's been in the minors farm system now for 2 years. And you got Cordero, who gets hot at the right time because he's a valuable trade piece. That's the only reason why this guy's getting hot. This is the only thing I can come up with right now at this particular point in time of why this guy is hot at that moment, at the right time. To me, who knows? I mean, it's right there for the taking at this point. I mean, is he going to get traded? I think he is. I think he's more likely to get traded this season right now than Bogarts and Devers combined. Because think about it. What's out for the taking right now for money-wise is really Cordero because he's not worth much. He really isn't. He's a good trade piece who's getting hot at the right time. That's the difference. And when you're hot at the right time, close to the trade deadline, which, by the way, is next month in 10 days, I'm just saying, it's right there for the taking. Anyway, I'm getting more news right now on my Bleacher Report social media right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers right now are having a visit from former Cincinnati Bengals defensive tackle Larry Ojojabi, who, by the way, couldn't re-sign with the team because he failed a physical. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he wants to go play for the Steelers now, maybe. You never know. The name just sounds like a player that will be playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know this guy probably wants to go play for his team now because his former team, who we went to the Super Bowl with last year, couldn't pass the physical, which I don't know how hard that could have been for him, but it is what it is. back to my Red Sox talk for a second. I got interrupted with that Bleacher Report stuff. But Cordero right now is the guy at this point that should be moved at this trade deadline. He should be. You keep Jeter down to round. You see how the kid plays through here. I think you do it. We've seen younger Red Sox talent shine here so many times at Fenway Park. It's been happening now for hundreds of years. It's the time to do it. And I think Bogart should get the extension here. I think at this point, if he doesn't get the extension here and he leaves Boston, it's a bad mark for Boston. You can't afford to lose both Devers and Xander Bogaerts at this point. You can't afford it. Cannot afford it. And this Red Sox team this year, whether anybody likes it or not, they may be back in the ALCS conversation. I actually thought this team was dead in the water. Not going to lie, but you look at the landscape right now of the American League East between Tampa Bay being crummy, Toronto right now starting to falter a little bit against the Chicago White Sox, which, by the way, the White Sox could win this series. They could get back above 500. They win tonight, they're at 500. If they win tomorrow, they're above 500. So the whole landscape right now, the American League East right now looks pretty good right now. The only thing they can't do is catch the Yankees. And I got to be honest here. I kind of hope this kind of happens at this point. I kind of hope at some point right now they get to face the Yankees right now and they get a confident, good ALDS out of it. That's what I kind of hope happens. I kind of hope at this point. So I'm just trying to wipe some crumbs off the counter here. I had a bagel early this morning. There you go. I thought there were ants in there, but it was just crumbs. Just caught my eye. I thought I wiped this table already. I already wiped this thing twice. Anyway, as far as the Red Sox go at this point, if they keep this momentum going right now, I can see the team going to the ALDS. Do I see them dethroning the Yankees? No. I can see probably a 3 or maybe a 4 or 5 game series if we're lucky. If we're lucky. And who knows? Anything could happen. They could lose their momentum. They can start getting that overconfident hangover. And you got Aaron Bum, a.k.a. Aaron Boone, as their manager. So I call him a bum because he's a bum manager. At this point, Joe Girardi and Joe Madden got fired. There's nothing wrong with baseball. Those two get fired before this guy does. They're around for 5 years at this point. He hasn't really proven anything to me. He really hasn't. I'm just adjusting this laptop here. There we go. It was kind of sliding off the countertop over here a little bit, or sliding off the little placemat that's underneath it. Colorado Avalanche lost last night in Tampa Bay, 6-2 last night. As now Tampa Bay has made a 2-1 series lead. So there's not been a sweep, by the way, in the actual final of the Stanley Cup since 1998. So we're not going to get it here, obviously. But Tampa Bay started out hot here, right out of the gate here. Even though Colorado got the first goal here from Landeskog, Sorrell got a goal last night. Palat got a goal last night in his first period, made it 2-1. Paul got a goal, made it 3-1 early in the second period. Landeskog midway in the second period got his second goal last night. 2 power play goals back-to-back from Landeskog at the midway point between the first and second periods. So they're good for him. Steve Stamkos got the goal last night, made it 4-2. Maroon gets a goal last night as well with the Lightning, made it 5-2. And Perry got a go-ahead power play, put this game to bed kind of goal, made it 6-2 in the third and second period. And that's all she wrote. This game was over by the second period. It was 6-2. Colorado just felt dead in the water, no energy, overcome with too much Tampa Bay fan noise. And they were loud, that fan base last night. They were loud for this game 3. This is a very important game 3. I don't think the Lightning have ever trailed in a series in a Stanley Cup final and actually won it. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Will there be a 3P or will they actually lose? Game 4 is Wednesday. Oh, one thing to mention here for the show. There is no show Saturday. There will be a show on Thursday instead, and then we're back to hopefully we're back to our normal schedule. I'm not even sure what's going to go on. Anyway, yeah. Just to mention that we will cover Game 4, which is on tomorrow. I believe it's on tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. And it is. Game 5 will be on Friday, back in Colorado. Game 6 is Sunday, which I might be at this point at Bose watching Game 6 of Tampa Bay, Colorado, if they even have it on. If they're even into a Stanley Cup final that has no Boston team in it, we'll see. But I probably will be at Bose on Sunday. So I will be probably most likely either playing pool or actually watching the game. I don't know. Probably be doing both. Oh, and if you hit like this episode so far, let us interrupt and hit that like button. Please subscribe. We'll really give the show some life right now at this point. It seems like it's on the downward spiral lately. So if anybody likes the show, give it a thumbs up. It'd be much appreciated. Anyway, rocking and rolling right now as we get through that review quickly for the I still have Colorado, by the way, winning in 6 games, by the way, if anyone's wondering right now. That has not changed at all. Last night, like I said before, Colorado just died a death last night. It was not meant to be last night. So, and I didn't expect them to go up 3-0, even though they had a 7-0 win at home against them on Saturday. So, and that one was just Tampa Bay just not having any life, and they were saying, let's just save that for Game 3. This was one of those things where it's like, let's not do anything in Game 2. Let's go back in Game 3 and kick their ass. And that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, that's all you need to know as far as that goes. U.S. Open was on over the weekend. Very wild weekend. It was Scottie Scheffler who had this lead. He was 7 under throughout the final round. The lead started changing a little bit because he struggled a little bit late in the round in the U.S. Open. Scheffler did. Zalatoris had a chance in the end to win the whole thing. Fitzpatrick was in the lead. And Zalatoris unfortunately choked in the last hole. He bogeyed it. And that's what gave Fitzpatrick the win right now. And Scottie Scheffler and both of them were tied for second as Matt Fitzpatrick, the Swiss guy, got the win. I did watch coverage of the U.S. Open throughout the first few days. It was on all over every channel. It was on NBC. It was on USA. It was a lot of coverage all over here. But it's a tough course, the U.S. Open. It's not an easy golf course to be playing on. It really isn't. I think this will be very telling here. The rest of the way right now, this is probably one of the better U.S. Opens that I can remember this point. They didn't have the following: Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, and really an elite Dustin Johnson at this point, or an elite Jordan Spieth. Because Spieth right now is slipping badly, and he's not doing that good. He is getting to pay the same though, regardless of who's golfing in this one. I believe that all the golfers are paid the same, regardless of what their contracts are with the PGA. I don't know how the payment plan works for them there. But I will say this right now, Brooks Koepka right now could be suspended without pay because he just announced that he will be part of the Saudi Arabia LIV Golf tournament. There's some kind of invitational tournament going on from, I believe it's June 30th to July 2nd that will be taking place, which will start next week. I'm pretty sure it's next Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway. So, yeah, they made that announcement. That was news all over. This is according to ESPN. This is what the article had said here. Brooks Koepka becomes the latest star golfer to leave the PGA Tour. 40 LIV Golf Series sources did confirm this. It has been confirmed that he is. I guess he's done with the PGA. It's that simple. Honestly, at this point, the PGA, like I said, kind of dying to death. And I said before, if they partner with the LIV, Saudi Arabia stuff right now, if they did the golfing outside there and had some coverages right now that allow journalists from NBC Sports and all that to cover it in USA, they'd be making tons of money too. It wouldn't just be the golfers here. It'd be the radio people. It would be the announcers for the television people would be making money. The radio people would be making money for it. A lot of people would be making money because they pay a lot of money, Saudi Arabian people. They do. They're all about the money. And at this point, they're probably more generous than they've ever been. Look what they've done with WWE up to this point, allowing WWE shows to take place in Saudi Arabia. I mean, did anybody ever think that in the 20-year history after 9/11 happened that would ever happen? I sure as hell didn't. So, I mean, this is what the story says right now at this point. This is according to Mark Scalbrook, senior writer for ESPN. This was actually announced almost 3 hours ago, actually. That 4-time major champion Brooks Koepka is the largest golf to deficit from the PGA Tour to the LIV Golf Invitational Series. Sources have confirmed to ESPN. Koepka is 32 years old, one of the highest profile players to join the breakaway circuit, which is being funded by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and is fronted by 2-time Open winner Greg Norman. Now, my thought process is on this right now here is this is hosted by the guy. I'm assuming this guy might be golfing too. But you know what? It is fair. He's the one that put this whole thing together. He's the one that created peace with the Saudi people. They agreed on a great price. And, it's more money for them. Good for them. But at this point, Phil Mickelson's way past his prime. Most of these golfers are, I would say, not even close to where the golfers were like in the early 2000s. I just think they were just much better than what we're seeing today. And I think realistically, the star power of that golf thing, look, Phil Mickelson's a big name, but he's not he's 50 years old, past his prime. He's only doing it for the money. I don't think he really cares if he wins this damn thing or not, as long as he gets paid to do it. And I think realistically here, it works out in their favor right now. I think this is just a way of saying, yeah, you guys don't pay us enough right now at this point. We're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna do this thing. So I don't think these guys really want to fly out to Saudi Arabia at this point and not be seen on TV. But I don't think they care if they are on TV. I think they just think in their mind, as long as they're getting paid enough, it's fine. And the PGA final round was great. Was a great thing to have play out at this point. So here's what the rest of this article says. The LIV Golf is expected to announce the addition of Koopeka in the upcoming days. Sources have confirmed Koopeka who was ranked 19th in the official World of Golf ranking, is expected to compete in the first LIV Golf event in the United States at Pumpkin Ridge in Portland, Oregon, starting on June 30th. That's another one. I did not even think this thing was actually going to take place in the U.S. So this maybe this is one of those things where Saudi Arabia comes back to the United States at this point to have their own golf tournament. I don't know. They're going to have their first event in the United States. They're going to have more events in the United States. I hate to clear. This is not going to be just be one event. They're not going to be doing this at the Pumpkin Ridge every year in Portland, Oregon. Or maybe it'll be one of their stables there. I don't know. Koopeka's pending departure from the PGA Tour was first reported Tuesday by the Telegraph of London. So that was reported last week. No one knew if it was confirmed yet, if it was really true, but it is true. A source confirmed that Abraham Answer, who was ranked 20th in the world, also is leaving the PGA Tour for LIV Golf. Later Tuesday, world number 4 Colin Morska denied rumors that he also was planning to join the LIV Golf, tweeting that he is here to stay on the PGA Tour and nothing has changed. So he is here to stay. So that's a good thing. So there's more golfers that are on the move right now. Bryce DeChambeau, Patrick Reed. They're all expected to do at this point. There's been at least 17 of these players right now that have been planning on joining for this and also been suspended to doing it for the PGA. So they have not been suspended from the LIV at this point. And I haven't heard a person with LIV just yet going right back to PGA. So I don't think I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon. And this goes to show you right now that anything could happen in the golf world. I'm just saying anything could happen in the golf world at this point. The fact that the LIV is actually having an actual event in the United States tells me right now that there's more money on the table. That's not coming from the PGA, that is coming from the United States. And boy, is that surprising with how high gas prices are today, how almost impossible it is right now to go to an event in baseball or a sporting event in general when you got to pay $15,000 for a ticket. And that's just for a big time game out of state, really, obviously. And just travel all over. But, somehow the LIV is allowed to do this, to go to the United States. And they're definitely getting the money from somewhere. You don't tell, the Saudi Arabian people have been collecting U.S. money for years. This is nothing new. Of course, this is coming from them. The only problem is at this point, the PGA Tour is pissed about it because it's more money coming out of their pocket to give to them. That's all this is. That's why they're suspending these players. These players don't care where the money's coming from, though. As long as they're getting paid accordingly and as long as they're happy, that's all that matters. This is a big story, and to me, it's just another big name leaving the PGA. If it's Tiger Woods at this point, it's not, it's a big name, but it's like Phil Mickelson at this point. Way past his prime, getting to that age now, it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. I feel like the PGA has died a little bit in ratings-wise anyway, but the U.S. Open, they've had the best event, I think, so far. That may have topped the LIV at some point. So, just saying. Some more NFL news. Bryan Mone, this was actually according to Bleacher Report. I got the article from that. Signed a 2-year extension. I think it was $21 million, I believe, that he'd be getting on the extension. I think $14 million his first year guaranteed, or in the second year. He might get $7 million first year, $14 million the second year guaranteed. I don't really remember the full report, but has signed a 2-year extension with the Seahawks. He was with the Seahawks last season. Pretty decent year for him. Not too bad. But, he keeps him around long enough, honestly, for him to continue playing in the system he was playing in for the first few years for the team. Good for him. Well-deserved pay for that guy right there. Well-deserved. I mean, I don't know how good he's going to be with this team right now, knowing that Seattle's going to suck this year. But, we'll see. I would have left there, would have ran away from this whole thing. So I got to continue the Vince McMahon storyline here because I think people have known more about the story. But for people who haven't watched the show, he did step down due to the allegations that went against him. This is not the first time, though, that this is actually have came out here at this point. So right now he's agreed to step back from responsibilities as chairman and CEO while the wrestling company board investigates him for alleged misconduct. He went on SmackDown and Raw and addressed nothing. I don't know what he said on SmackDown. I think he said, "I love all you people who came to see here." And then he talked about John Cena on Raw, which Cena will be doing his return next week because it's his 20th anniversary. So we'll be also having it up on the show on Thursday. It's another thing we'll be having up on the show. McMahon won't completely disappear from the company. He will retain his role to relate to WWE's creative content while the investigation is ongoing and will appear as a character during wrestling matches. So I guess he'll be an on-air character once again. So we're basically going to see an old 76-year-old man who last night nearly fell off the apron last night as he was leaving the ring. I think he was drunk, honestly, last night. I looked back at it last night. There was one point where he did a little skip in the ring, and I thought to myself, is he drunk? I just watched this. I think to myself, I'm seeing a goofy 76-year-old man last night. I think it's going to be a new gimmick now this morning. He's so goofy and drunk. I mean, he's just skipping and doing a skippity yay and saying kumbaya. The Wall Street Journal, by the way, got this story. I didn't remember what the article had read at this point, but it reported that McMahon paid a secret $3 million settlement to the former employee that he alleged had an affair with. The separation agreement, which was reportedly made in January, prevents the former unnamed employee from discussing her relationship with Mr. McMahon or disparaging him, according to the Journal. Basically, she got a $100,000 raise, a $200,000 raise. The investigation reportedly began in April and unearthed other old non-disclosure agreements involving claims made by the former WWE female employees of misconduct. Mr. McMahon, the Journal reported, and other misconduct claims were reported foundedly against by John Lauranitis. I actually found this story actually on YouTube as of yesterday. So I will pull it up here. It's not good audio. I do apologize for that. Not really the best audio that I could have gotten out of this whole thing, but it's what I caught yesterday that really just, tells the whole story. And this came from Dust Mantel, who is a former employee. I don't normally play audio clips on here, but in this case here, when a story like this pops out, and the story was going to pop out in any way, shape, or form. This is the article that I did get. If I can just find it on here, it would be really nice to see if I can have it on here. But let me see if I can get the article. I know I had this article in here. I guess I thought I viewed it yesterday. It might have been Sunday. I could be wrong. But here it is. And I don't own the copyright to the video right now, so I will put that in the description right now. I don't own any rights to this video. So I don't want any copyright infringement when I post this video here, if it ever gets to that point.
And it being a bit of a boys' club, how much you willing to sort of stick your neck on the line and say what you heard?
Well, I heard more about Lauranitis than I did about Vince, because Lauranitis is, I heard all kind of stories about him. He would leave the TV and then he would somehow meet up later. And it was his own private time. And the diva he met with, it was her own private time too. And that was kind of hush-hush. But he had quite the reputation from what I hear. Now, did I do it? No. First of all, I was too friggin' old. Second of all, you got to actually work at it a little bit. I didn't feel like working. But see, Lauranitis, in the position he was in, he could just tell those girls anything, especially a new girl. And as soon as the girl had something to do with Lauranitis, all the other girls knew it. So he'd put her on an island by herself, which actually caused more problems than what a promotion or a move up the card could cure. So
that was Dutch Mantel, who's worked for many wrestling promotions over the years. He's done so many things over the years. I think he was a former wrestler, manager. He's done it all really in this company. But this was more on John Lauranitis. Basically has a reputation for sleeping with the WWE divas. Basically, Vince McMahon 2.0, only the difference is that he actually has done more sleeping around and more cheating around than Vince McMahon has done. Now, I don't own the copyrights to this video. This was a wrestling shoot interview that was taking place. This is really story time with wrestling. I think it was wrestling shoot interviews. This is available for all major podcast platforms. It's on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and Amazon Music and Stitcher. I forgot what the kid's name was that did this video, but I was able to catch that audio clip. Man, the only reason why I'm going to show this is because here's my point. Vince McMahon doing this at this point, he's separated from his wife. He, apparently on the Pat McAfee show, which I heard this from the Solomon Macho Sounds of, again, shout out to Jason Solomon for his podcast. He's on episode 761. This Sunday coming up will be 762 for his show. When I first heard about this, and the fact that it was noticeable, I didn't even know he didn't have the wedding ring back on him. And at the time I thought, Vince McMahon and Linda have split at this point. She's not been a thing. I personally have never seen the wedding ring on the guy for the better part for 10 years. I've never seen him wear the ring once. Whether he was on air, behind the scenes as a camera guy, I've never seen it. To me, I didn't know they were still married. Maybe they were divorced and they got remarried again, and then this time around it didn't work out. I don't know what the story was with Vince McMahon at the time in his whole marriage situation. You hear stuff like this, and you hear reports like this, and you hear clips like this, and for Vince McMahon being sexually abusing women, that's not cool. I'm not condoning the guy's behavior. But to go on live TV for 2 straight days now, by the way, and to really say nothing, to say absolutely nothing, I don't know. I don't know what to say here other than just to be like, all right. Now he's going to be an on-air character now, so we're going to see drunk Vince McMahon every week now this week. Look, the guy is 76 years old at this point. But to do that to women and stuff like that long ago, I think honestly he knew what he did was wrong those first 2 times. The third time, I'm just thinking in my head right now, like the girl was asking for it. She got a raise. It wasn't like she was sexually assaulted at this point. If she's in a relationship with this guy now at this point, and she's coming out saying right now that, she's going through hard times and stuff like that, what is she going to do? She's going to make up a story, of course, and try to get Vince McMahon to give her more money. That's why she got the $3 million and agreed to not say nothing. I thought this was actually released to the public, and based on Nick Khan right now getting the whole thing wrong with Money in the Bank pay-per-view and finding out that Roman Reigns is not fighting on the show. That's not on Vince McMahon. It kind of is because he was the one that's writing the checks for Roman. But I thought Nick Khan released this somehow, because it was released in April. My first thought was, well, who the hell released the story? who got their edge on the story. Now, my opinion on this one, it could have been either two things. I thought mainly it was somebody that's deep in the inner circle that knew about this stuff right now. My first thought was Nick Khan. But then Nick Khan really wasn't around that much, even in the company. In fact, Nick Khan was really around right after The Fiend was released. I think that was his first move, was really getting Laurinaitis and them together and releasing The Fiend. Now, I don't know how true that is, but, for McMahon and Linda McMahon to be separated at this point, to me, wouldn't surprise me. I thought they were divorced. The fact they were married for 60 years up to this point, despite all this on-air content and all the allegations that went against them over the years, the steroids scandal back in 93, 94, the sexual assault allegations back in 1986. It was released on air in 1992. I actually found a clip of the first time this actually happened to. Now, I don't own the rights to this clip either. So I'm going to ask for permission now. I can just use it now, folks. That way I can make my point. Because at the end of the day, this is going to come out whether anybody likes it or not here. It is what it is. But this is Larry King Live.
One part sport, one part showmanship, and it's so big it often outdraws mainstream athletics. Nevertheless, pro wrestling is reeling. Wave after wave of scandalous charges threaten its hard-won family image. Numerous sources talk about the use of steroids and other drugs, and they've even named wrestling's biggest draw, Hulk Hogan, though he's denied the charges. And now, a former ringside assistant is charging that wrestling executives solicited sex from wrestlers and other employees in exchange for jobs. Some say their careers were cut short for not playing. He was sexually molested by wrestling executives. We'll start with Vince McMahon. What do you make of all this?
I really don't know what to make of it.
You have no concept that any of this was going on? No idea?
No idea whatsoever. And let me say this, Larry, that it's very, very peculiar that all of these unsubstantiated charges have not gone to the appropriate authorities, firstly. For instance, there are laws, federal laws, as well as state laws, that prohibit this kind of activity.
Where did this break? I mean, where did you hear about it? Who broke this story? How are the charges? Why do we know this?
Well, all I know is what I read in the newspaper and haven't been able to respond to. We've started our own investigation, our own internal investigation, trying to get to the bottom of this. We want to get to the bottom of all of this.
No one has gone to a police agency and said I was forced to have sex?
No one has filed one single charge, not one single charge with the police, with anyone.
Concerning sexual harassment?
Concerning sexual harassment.
Have you ever heard rumors of it?
No, I mean, these are things that you don't hear rumors of sexual harassment.
You wouldn't hear that?
But wait, if in fact you have someone who may be gay, then sure, you're going to hear locker room horseplay. That's going to happen. But just that. Anyone can always come to me. They've always been able to come to me and tell me if anything is out of line.
So in other words, any of your wrestlers could have come to you and said, there's a guy in the office coming on with.
The people like Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, Mel Phillips have all resigned. They've all resigned from this organization, supposedly, because I question that too. But as far as McMahon being so shocked and surprised at all this, we go way back, for example, when one of his people, this Mel Phillips, was...
By the way, if anyone doesn't know that clip of that voice right now, that's Bruno Sammartino. I got to say this right now. Vince McMahon covered his ass a lot in these things. Of course, he's going to deny this thing. By the way, this was an old Larry King Live episode. Rest in peace to Larry King, one of the greatest of all time. Doing it on CNN at this point. Never CNN. Here's another way of looking at it. If Larry King never retired and just kept on working, he'd still be alive today. And CNN streaming would be the best thing going right now at this point. Would probably take Fox News out of business. It would. Many people could argue right now. I mean, and my father would agree to this too, because let's be honest. After Larry King left and retired in 2010, CNN was dying a death. They've had maybe the only thing they could have covered was the Trayvon Martin shooting back in 2012. That was it. The Donald Trump stuff helped out a little bit. The impeachment helped out a lot because it helped CNN actually keep the network around, because if it wasn't that impeachment in COVID, CNN would have lost their service for sure. This has nothing to do with Vince McMahon stuff. So here's my point on the whole thing. Again, the idea here is Vince McMahon, involved another allegation. This is now his fourth allegation now. 3 of them have been sexual misconduct, sexual assault, and all that stuff like that. The reality of it is the girl got $100,000 and $200,000 raise. Why all of a sudden now that Vince McMahon broke it off after 3 years, she got released because she wasn't doing her part in the deal. She wasn't wrestling as much. My first thought is who they had the allegations with, because I thought about it last night. I thought to myself, it makes sense here. She came after the Raw reunion. She was thrown through hard times. There was reports saying right now financially she's not really that stable. Really, honestly, she's got a family. My first thought was it could have been Jillian Hall, because Jillian Hall is 41 years old. Now, I've seen her social media. I've seen, she's not a rich person, I don't believe. I don't think she got any royalties for being with WWE. She really wasn't even that good of a wrestler. Supposedly she made her debut back in 2019 and left in 2022. Now, I don't know what Jillian Hall's contract was as far as, was she assigned talent? Was she just there for a one-night return-only thing? Was that her contract? I don't know. My first thought was Jillian Hall because I thought, nice blonde lady. She got prettier over time, which is kind of surprising. She did. But it wasn't even her. And my next thought was, all right, if it's not her, it's not Candice Michelle, because it's wouldn't really make a lot of sense. She was there for a return as well. And you got Kelly, aka Barbie Blank, who got married with Arizona Diamondbacks baseball player. I don't remember who the player was. So it got me to thinking in this whole story of like who broke the news in that inner circle. My first thought is next would have been Triple H because, well, he kind of knew about the allegation because he was around behind the scenes in 2019 as well with Raw and with behind the scenes with SmackDown. My initial thought would have been either Lacey Evans, but Lacey Evans kind of debuted in 2019. So my opinion on this is that it could have been Lacey Evans. It could have been Jillian Hall. She's fallen through hard times, which I'm assuming is, I couldn't tell you who it was. And supposedly her salary went from $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year. And I could look at WWE salaries right now if I really wanted to, just for the women. And I may actually look this up because it does bring a lot of intriguement in me of who it could have been. Now, I'm not trying to expose Vince McMahon. In fact, at this point, I don't really care if he had a relationship with this girl or not. It does not bother me. It, in the slightest, does not get me all bottled up inside. It just doesn't. I just look at this, I go, okay, well. And I could just say right now, as far as the women go right now for so here it is. And this is according to sportskez.com. This reveals a top 10 list for WWE highest paid divas revealed. So it's between Ronda Rousey and Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Anushka, which I have no idea who that is, Natalya, Nia Jax, Carmella, Lana. Lana could be another one too. Even though Lana was released, she went from 100,000 to 200,000, and although she made her debut in 2014, so it really could have been her. Sasha Banks is at $250,000 a year, which that surprises me, that she's actually below the likes of Anushka and Bayley. Bayley, who's paid more than that, that's kind of surprising. That is kind of surprising. You got Mickie James, and you got Shayna Baszler. Ronda Rousey makes the highest amount here. It would not surprise me that if it was either Lacey Evans. And I got the following right now of diva names: Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair, or Jillian Hall. It could be anybody in that, that division. And by the way, the only reason why I bring this up is because John Lauranitis has surprisingly recently has stepped down. And this would not surprise me. This came through the Wrestling Shoot interview story time. I forgot who that kid's name is, though. I tried looking the kid's name up. I can't get the information. So, but anyway, credit to him for the audio clip I was able to play right now that I was able to have at my disposal here. If I get copyright infringement for this episode, which hopefully I don't, it'd be kind of shameful if I did. But, I think realistically right now, this actually brings a really good point here, which is that Bruce Pritchard takes a job over from him. I think John Laurinaitis is a con man. I think this guy's in more trouble than people think. And it would not surprise me if John Laurinaitis lost his power here and had to be told to step down and he got his pink slip, because this may actually happen. I think Vince McMahon, as far as I'm concerned, listen, I think this is going to be a storyline thing now where Vince McMahon is going to be that confused fellow who thinks he still runs the company at 76 years old. And he's going to be this on-air persona now where Stephanie goes, no, Dad, I run the show now. You gave me the power. You gave me the keys to the castle, remember? He's like, what about your husband, Triple H? It's like, well, he'll be fine. You know, he's doing good. Now, at this point, I don't know. He's got a thing in his chest. I don't know if he can ever work out again or not. You know, if he would have gone back in the ring, then it would never ended well for him. And it's too bad because, you know, he really was going to be the one that takes the key to the throne from Vince. And now it's going to be and now you got Stephanie McMahon, who's going to be the chairwoman at this point. Until this investigation goes away at this point, I even when this does go away, I just can't see Vince McMahon going back into power. Because it's just a big giant screw you at this point. And I think Vince McMahon would look bad for a fourth allegation to come out and for that to be like the turning point here in this whole thing. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so I got more story right now. We're going to talk about right now. We're going to talk about the Raw from last night. And it was a pretty good Raw episode last night. It was. Unfortunately, there was some bad news to be told, though, because Rhea Ripley is out for Money in the Bank. So we're not going to see her right now at this point. She's not medically cleared. I guess supposedly she got injured during the Fatal 4-Way match. I'm assuming. I don't know where the injury came from. I don't know if she did a live event this week. Just got to text somebody back right now. I'll get right back to what I was saying beforehand. Anyway. But yeah, it seems like now that that Rhea Ripley is out with an injury. I guess she got her. I guess her teeth shift. I guess supposedly. I guess I don't know what the story is with that one right now. And I guess she had braces noticeably on her teeth. So I don't know if it had anything to do with that. If she hurt her jaw. If her jaw has been broken. I don't know what the story is with the injury. I mean, I just got the report last night. I was watching Raw last night. I watched a full episode of Raw last night. And I don't normally do these wrestling review kind of things because sometimes I get criticism for doing wrestling reviews for Raw. I do sports. I do fake sports. I do entertainment. This show is not just it's basically like a soap opera. You're going to get sports. You're going to get politics. You're going to get, well, not really a lot of politics. But you're going to get economics, entertainment, music. You're going to get the whole shebang of it. TV shows, whatever's crack-a-lacking, in my opinion, okay? That's what you're going to get in this podcast. I'll try not to do politics on the show, though, because I promised myself I wouldn't do too much politics here because that drives people away. So, anyway. But Raw was good last night. Raw was an interesting show last night. Raw was a very interesting show. We already know now that Raquel Rodriguez qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match. So did Liv Morgan. So did Alexa Bliss. They had a chance to go higher up on the card, I guess, supposedly, and challenge for the Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. That's how the show pretty much opened up right now. It had a fatal 5-way. The fans loved every minute of it. It was great action. Becky Lynch and Asuka were in 2 matches last night. They ended up being in the main event for in a one-on-one match afterward. This match was there was so much action going on in the ring. It was almost impossible to cover. At one point, Becky Lynch was getting the pin. I think it was Liv Morgan that was pinning her. I guess I think Alexa had Twisted Bliss. She had I think she covered both Becky and Liv at the same time. Becky Lynch had a Becky bottom. She got pulled out. Asuka had a roundhouse kick. Carmella had a super kick to Liv Morgan, pinned her, and that was the end of that match there. It was a lot of action, a lot of back and forth. Carmella I think Carmella was pinning 2 people at the same time at one point, too. I don't know if it was her or somebody else. But overall, it was a good show. I already mentioned the Vince McMahon stuff, so that's that. But overall, that whole thing in of itself was interesting. Almost was in a one-on-one match with Riddle. Riddle came out, was still nursing bad ribs from the match that he had with Roman Reigns, which actually, let me just start off by doing that match review. So I'll do that first. So Reigns and Riddle had a great undisputed Universal title match at this point. It was back and forth. Riddle had a fisherman's suplex. Roman Reigns, Riddle came out hot out of the gate, had some shots to Roman Reigns. Reigns had an uppercut right in the jaw. Reigns had his offense, hit a rock bottom on Riddle on the table, was taunting the cameraman, saying, "Where you at, Randy?" Blah, blah, blah. Riddle started firing some shots away at Roman. Riddle had a moonsault outside the ring right before he got rock bottom to that table. Roman had a drive-by at one point in the match. Roman hit a Superman punch, almost had a 3 count. Riddle was able to kick out. Riddle had the DDT. His finish, when he heard the Randy chants, that pumped him out, hit the DDT. Then he was setting up for the RKO. He hit the RKO on Roman Reigns. Everybody thought that Riddle was going to win the Universal title. I thought he was going to win the Universal title, but he did not. He kicked out. And Riddle was setting up for a giant moonsault, whisper the wind type of thing, or the Bro Derek, or whatever he calls it, finishing move. He had a little twirl with it, got hit with a spear. 1, 2, 3. That was the end of that match. Still your undisputed champion, Roman Reigns. So that was a great match. Here's the thing with these matches this year so far. They've had some pretty good starting openers for Raw this year with that Fatal 5-way match. And Roman Reigns had his first title defense since WrestleMania. And let me just put this in perspective. That title match that Roman had last night with Riddle had me on the edge of my, or Friday night, had me on the edge of my seat. I was rewatching that match over again. I didn't have time to watch it last Friday. I just didn't have time. I was able to rewatch it right before Raw last night. It was a great match. It was a great match. This was better than their matches they've had in the past. This was a lot better than what they had at their past at this point. They've had some pretty good showings. They've had some really good showings for Roman. Roman at this point is on a totally different level at this point. He's almost at 700 days with that championship now. I don't know. At this point, it's tough to say when he's dropping that thing, if he ever does. Look, it seems like now that we're gonna have a Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar fight at SummerSlam, which we already know that's gonna happen. The question is, when does it happen? I don't know. That last man, we already know when's going to happen, but who's going to be winning it? Again, I don't know. Is it going to go to Brock? Is it going to go to Roman? Is Seth Rollins going to win Money in the Bank and cash it in a last man standing match? Again, we don't know. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Anyway, going back to the Riddle and Almost stuff. So Almost, Riddle, felt sore. He had a pre-match promo and Almost just destroyed him. I mean, Riddle tried his best. Unfortunately, Almost hit the 2-handed Kali choke slam. 1, 2, 3. That was the end of it. I don't know why Almost doesn't do the 1 foot in the thing. I don't get why he has to get down and pin these opponents. You're 7'3". You're 405 pounds. Why are you doing this? I'm just curious. Why are you pinning it this way? Anyway, Lashley interrupted Austin Theory's pose down challenge. He did a open invitational pose down. Lashley showed up, got his revenge, squirted the baby oil in his face, and he left the ring. Angelo Dawkins defeated Jey Uso in a match. Jey Uso thought he had the match put away. Basic stuff. Jey Uso was going for the frog splash from the top rope. Jimmy Uso was so confident that his brother was going to do it. Unfortunately, he got caught in the choke slam powerbomb. Dawkins got the pin on Jey Uso, and Jimmy was counting 1, 2, 3. Didn't realize that happened. Elias made his return last night. Had his own little content last night. Had his little pre-match stuff with Ezekiel in the locker room. They had a little segment right now. Then Elias was getting ready to start his content. Kevin Owens was saying, "You're actually Ezekiel. You're not Elias. You're a liar." Blah blah blah. And I guess Ezekiel came on the Titantron behind him. I guess, and it was just. The whole thing was weird, and then Kevin Owens got the realization after he got hit with the guitar, went back into Gorilla, and got the interview with Kevin Patrick at this point. Then saw Ezekiel and infuriated Owens even more. Lashley was in a gauntlet match. If he would have won the gauntlet match, he would earn a shot at the United States Championship. Lashley defeated Chad Gable, Otis, and Austin Theory. I had a pretty great match with Chad Gable. Gable tapped out right away. Otis, attacked Lashley for the second match when it began. It was all Otis. Babyface comeback for Lashley. Lashley did his usual stuff. Hit a great spear on Otis. I thought Otis was going to get pinned. I don't know why that they're protecting Otis here and having him lose by DQ. I didn't get the point of that. I know it was a setup for Austin there to come out and try to get the win on Lashley. Lashley was getting ready to get hit with the ATL. I think that's what the finishing move is right now for Theory. Counter with a roll-up. Pinned him 1, 2, 3. Lashley is the #1 contender for the United States Championship. AJ Styles was on Miz TV. Miz was basically just talking crap about AJ Styles, how he's been doing bad lately, how he lost Seth Rollins and that in the Money in the Bank ladder match. AJ Styles, call him out about his tiny grapefruits. That led to the Miz saying this is not going to become a thing, blah, blah, blah. Then the Miz basically said, I'm more successful than you are, blah, blah, blah. Then AJ Styles just nailed the Miz with the microphone. Then Ciampa jumped in from behind, and we got a great match between AJ Styles and Ciampa. After the Phenomenal Forum, AJ Styles was ready to almost got attacked by the Miz. Tried to blindside him again, but he hit a Pele. What was that? The Styles Clash, and that was the end of it. So we're gonna probably see AJ Styles versus the Miz at Money in the Bank. I kind of hope we do. Honestly, they could do AJ Styles and Ciampa again at Money in the Bank. To me, I don't know what the point is with Ciampa getting the jump on these people. I just don't get it. Like, is that his bodyguard now? Like, every time there seems to be a Miz TV segment. Like last week he jumped Riddle. Riddle beat Ciampa. And now this week you got Ciampa again, who loses to AJ Styles. This guy should not be losing these matches. He lost to Mustafa Ali. He lost to Riddle now. And now he's losing to AJ Styles. That's 3 straight weeks of doing this. And 3 straight weeks you have lost these matches. I don't get where this is going for Ciampa. If I'm Ciampa at this point, and this is a guy who beat The Miz. Ciampa beat The Miz like 3 years ago. What has happened? This guy used to be great on NXT. This guy's getting buried. I mean, I wouldn't say buried, but he's not doing that great either. In fact, the last match he won, I'm pretty sure he's 1-1 against Ali. I think he beat Ali at one point. He's won some house show matches, supposedly. I mean, I don't know. What are they doing with Ciampa? Why is Ciampa taking the losses here? I don't get it. Anyway, Asuka was in the main event against Becky Lynch. They had a great match going on right now. Lynch upset with her loss in the Fatal 5-Way early in the night. Demanded for an opportunity. Another chance to get in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Another chance for something, really. She was told that she would have a match with Asuka in the main event. And it was going to be later on that night, and it left Becky Lynch speechless. But in the end, it was a back and forth affair. Their usual shtick. Asuka landed a roundhouse kick and pinned Becky Lynch clean right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. So Asuka will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. You have Raquel Gonzalez, you have Asuka, you have Lacey Evans, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan. This is all babyfaces as far as I'm concerned. All babyfaces. There's not one single heel in this whole thing. They're all babyfaces. It's kind of crazy. I don't know why it's just all babyfaces there, but it is what it is. But all you gotta know is that Rhea Ripley is out. I think she may have injured herself at a live event, maybe. I don't know if that's what the story is. I don't know why she was injured. I don't know what the story was besides this. I'm actually gonna look it up right now because I'm actually more curious about this, really, because I knew it was too early to do this match, really. But the question is right now is how long is this injury gonna be for? Is she gonna be out now at this point? Like, there's a variety of ways of looking at this because no one really knows what the story is. They don't know. It's kind of crazy at this point that we just don't know the answers to this question. It's just, I mean, and it doesn't even say why she's out with an injury. It doesn't really even say. I mean, at this point, it's just, anyway, I look at this and it's just, it was an average Raw episode last night. You had a great Fatal 5-Way that opened up the show. A random Vince McMahon promo hyping up John Cena, which I'm assuming we're going to get a Vince McMahon John Cena match next week, and all it builds up to end up being is Austin Theory jumping John Cena. That's the only thing I can come up with, honestly. That happens next week. But this is what will happen next week on Monday Night Raw. And there's also going to be a tag team match with Elias and Ezekiel facing Kevin Owens and a mystery partner of his own. I'm going to say this right now. It's going to probably end up being Sami Zayn. Right? It's just an excuse at this point to get Sami Zayn back with Kevin Owens. The honorary Usos, because technically the Usos can go on Raw and SmackDown and do whatever the hell they want to freaking do. So it's going to be Sami Zayn. We're going to see Sami Zayn next week. I would not be surprised if it was Sami Zayn. It's kind of predictable at this point. You know, I could say Chad Gable or Otis, but that's even more predictable as well. You could say Ciampa, because it gives something Ciampa to do, I guess. Although he'd probably be the fall man if he was put in this match anyway, and not Kevin Owens. And I think realistically, you could argue it could be The Miz. Because why not? It gives something to Miz to do before Money in the Bank, if he's going to be in Money in the Bank, which right now he doesn't have a match either. So AJ Styles and The Miz might be your magic Money in the Bank. I kind of hope it is. They'll head it out of the park if we do. They've had great matches before. So we'll see what happens with that as far as that goes. As far as the Raw show goes, it was great. It was average great. I would say it was a great average show. Good average show. I don't know why I said great. Anyway, Slammiversary was on last week. Impact celebrated their 20-year anniversary. The Good Brothers are now the TNA Tag Team Champions again. America's Most Wanted came out and shared a beer with them. Chris Harris looked heavy. He put on some muscle, but he's got a big little baby face fat. So they all drink beers after the match. I guess the Good Brothers are baby faces again. I don't know. The Briscoes are baby faces again. The Good Brothers are baby faces now. It's weird. It's like, it's kind of unexpected because I think a lot of people were expecting the Briscoes to retain the tag team championships. But the Good Brothers won the tag team gold right back. So, I mean, good for them. They earned it. We'll see what happens now going forward. But as far as the Rhea Ripley stuff goes with Raw, if she's not back by SummerSlam at least, then my only assumption is they're probably saving her for that Wales, Cardiff, England show where Bianca Belair would defend that belt against Rhea Ripley. I think it's a better showing for her anyway. I know it's not a major event, really, although technically they're doing it in a big-ass stadium this year, so it kind of makes a lot of sense here. I think they will do it there at that show. I think that's what will end up happening now going forward. Now, as far as who's taking that belt, I think Rhea Ripley wins the belt at that show in Cardiff, Wales. And we're probably going to end up seeing McIntyre beat Rollins at the other show. Because I think, honestly, this is what I think is going to end up happening at SummerSlam. Lesnar and Reigns is still on at SummerSlam. That's your main event no matter what. Rollins is going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. Rollins is going to cash in on both Roman Reigns and Lesnar one more time in a last man standing match. And I think this is going to end up being a win for Rollins. Another heist here. I can still see this coming. This is going to happen. And then we're going to see Rollins and McIntyre have an instant classic and have McIntyre win back the gold. Rollins is only going to hold it for like a month. So, I mean, I kind of feel like that's what's going to end up happening. I don't know what it is. The heist of the century happens again, and then another heist happens later on. There's going to be two heists in a span of 2 months that involves that championship. And I think Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair will end up happening on that show. I don't think they want to do it at SummerSlam. I don't know what it is. I think people are afraid of the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match being topped. So they're going to try to, because if they're not going to do it at Money in the Bank in Las Vegas, they're not going to do it in Nashville, Tennessee in a different stadium. It makes no difference if you ask me. And especially right now when they can't even get ticket sales right now anyway. The only reason why we're going to get Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns anyway is for ticket sale boost. That's it. So that's all I'm going to say now going forward. I mean, that is your main reason why we're going to have this Raw show, and that's it. And that's all I really needed to cover here today. Unfortunately, we are actually out of time. We're back here Thursday, so there is going to be a show on Thursday. There is no show on Saturday. That's just the way it is right now at this point. Our schedules are messed up. We have a lot of stuff going on. I got a lot of stuff going on. But yeah. That's pretty much it. You can their social media stuff is down below. Oh, I actually probably should, before I go, actually, I meant to get into the Tim White and Dave Hebner story. I actually had the pages open up in my thing. So Tim White, very famous WWE referee, passed away over the weekend. Was an American professional referee. He started out as a concession guy, working concession stands, traveling all over the globe. He worked as Andre the Giant's assistant in addition to his referee duties. While starting as a part-time referee back in 1985, he was working as an agent for Andre the Giant. In 93, shortly after Andre's death, White became a full-time referee, appearing frequently on pay-per-views and tapings for WWE. He was part of the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Mankind, their most legendary Hell in a Cell match of all time, the King of the Ring. After Mankind fell through the roof of the cell and landed in the ring hard-wise, Undertaker told White to go check out Mick Foley, see if he's, either he's injured or dead or not dead. Match continued, however, though, and it's remembered to be one of the most greatest Hell in a Cell legendary matches of all time. In 2002, Andrew White's career came to a close. He suffered a career-ending shoulder injury from Triple H and Chris Jericho. White, at WrestleMania 20 in 2004, he refereed a match with Jericho and Christian as he re-injured his shoulder during the final 3 count, forcing to end his refereeing career at that point. He was on a series called Lunchtime Suicide Series, where he made some controversial appearances at the Armageddon pay-per-view. In a segment, despondent White was interviewed by SmackDown reporter Josh Matthews inside the bar that he owned, the Friendly Tap, which was in Cumberland, Rhode Island, by the way. At the time, the Armageddon pay-per-view was actually conveniently in Providence, Rhode Island. So that's actually a nice little tidbit there. He was depicted as drinking large amounts of alcohol, claiming that the infamous Hell in a Cell that ruined his life. He then proceeded to take a shotgun out from under the bar and off-screen fired the gun, apparently intending to kill himself, which he didn't, obviously. This sketch was considered distasteful in part really due to the fact that the month before this, Eddie Guerrero had died. I would say, honestly, it would have been worse if it was during the Chris Benoit death, because Chris Benoit, remember, had that double murder-suicide. So it would have been distasteful back then. The only difference is Eddie Guerrero died of a heart attack. I'm not sure why this was considered distasteful in this case when the guy died of a heart attack. This guy did not kill himself. He didn't. He just died of a heart attack in his house. That's it. January 6, 2006, it was revealed that White had shot his foot accidentally during the ordeal. But when asked by Matthews about his New Year's resolutions, he proceeded to scarf down a box of rat poison. Big box of it. And I guess this was basically him trying to commit. The whole suicide stuff was dumb. I guess this is his way of saying right now he would be, killing himself in so many ways. It was stupid. I hated every minute of these things. White was part of the company despite being released in 2009 in January, ending his 25 tenure with the company, almost 25 years, we're 24. On April 18th, he appeared on numerous interviews with the HBO documentary about Andre the Giant, and he was on the most wanted treasures of last year back in June. So a year later, he passes away. He died at the age of 68. Condolences goes out to him and the family. But yeah, Tim White was, he was basically friends with all the superstars, friends with Edge, Jericho, Christian, to name a few. He was a friend with a lot of people, Mick Foley, just a lot of friends that he had. And really, he had regrets about Andre the Giant's death because apparently Andre the Giant died alone in his hotel room, and he was upset that he did not get a chance to see him. And I did watch that clip of him crying during that documentary that was about Andre. So it was very sad to hear about what happened there to Tim White. So condolences goes out to him and the family. Dave Hebner, I did mention already, passed away. He debuted a wrestling referee in the late 1970s in Richmond, Virginia. He began working with the WWF back in '86, so he was never with WCW. But he refereed matches with Savage and Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, Savage and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 5, WWF main event where he was in the match, and it was Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. So I was right there. It was Andre that defeated Hulk Hogan, after Hebner's twin brother Earl had switched places. So Dave Hebner was the one who refereed the match. So I got this wrong, which is why I wanted to report the story again. He had switched places as Ted DiBiase had locked Dave in a closet. Earl Hebner quickly counted the 3 as Andre pinned Hogan. Hogan clearly having his shoulder up, but it was a screw job, and it resulted as Andre as a champion, and Hebner received 2,500 bonuses for the match. Prior to that, the extended Evil Twin referee storyline through kayfabe, it was an investigative report published by the promotion's flagship publication of their magazine, the WWF magazine at the time, which would have been the WWE magazine. In an 2001 interview during a Raw magazine, Dave Hebner said the angle was soon dropped after he suffered a broken ribs, and when Earl kicked him as part of the aftermath of the Hogan-Andre match. So really, the Earl kicked Dave in the ribs and hurt him. Earl Hebner, by the way, was refereeing a match at Slammiversary. I don't remember what match it was. I think it might have been the Originals versus the Ring of Honor stuff. It was Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards that were on both sides. Anyway, I think Eddie Edwards pinned David. Or no, it was Eddie Edwards that got pinned by Davey Boy. So there you go. After being released, Hebner debuted in TNA from December 17, 2005, and appearing on stage between Team 3D and Diamonds in the Rough. Hebner left in 2012. Hebner later became the manager of the Lumberjacks of the MMWA from 2012 to 2022. So, you know, you hear the career stuff that this guy's been doing. This guy's been around wrestling for a long time. Him and Earl. Earl's got to be feeling it right now at this point to know that his brother's passed away. I mean, look what Dave had left at the point. He married his wife, Rebecca, for 45 years. Really, it's been 43, but I'm just not trying to get a technicality here. Earl, his identical twin brother, nephew Bryan. Hebner suffered a Parkinson's disease for a while there. I don't think that was part of his death, though. I don't believe. Of him passing away. I believe Hebner was 72, 73, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. And he was 72 years old. Okay. So there you go. Or 80, or no. Wait a minute. 49. I'm wrong about the death here. I think I'm off by the numbers here. I'm going to do my math here because I'm not normally good at, like, I used to be good at doing math things in my head. Unfortunately, right now that has not worked in my advantage at this point. But anyway, it's a good thing I did not forget about this because that would have not been good. So he was 73. So he was 73 years old. Hebner was when he passed away. I think I don't know if his Parkinson's had returned at that point, if he was suffering throughout with the whole thing. But he passed away. Tim White and Dave Hebner had passed away. Thanks to Mike for the report there for Tim White putting on his story. So I was able to use that for the podcast. He was going to talk about that with me on the show today, along with the Vince McMahon stuff. One more thing related to wrestling. As far as Sasha Banks right now being released right now, it's not been made official yet, but it is coming. This is a woman now at this point that has been slighted at this point ever since she got eliminated at the Royal Rumble match. Things have felt differently. I mean, she was slotted in a tag team role with Naomi. She won the tag team gold, and then they left that whole Raw thing. And I got to be honest here. I think she's going to be released as soon as possible. I would not be surprised if Sasha Banks was released within the next, 2 months. She doesn't do SummerSlam, doesn't do Money in the Bank. Unless she's a mystery return and she just somehow makes her return and everything goes away here. I don't know. Maybe her last match will be Money in the Bank and she'll get released right after that. I don't know. But, yeah. And my dad, by the way, came up with that story. So thanks to my father who did that. And we had a great Father's Day over the weekend. Everyone was curious. Anyway, but yeah, that now is the official end of the show. Thanks to all our supporters out there who have subscribed. Again, thank you. And to those who want to subscribe, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you like this episode. Our social media is at the bottom of the page. And we'll see you on Thursday. Have a good night.